Welcome to the Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change, a podcast. Excited to have Jinohn back with us.
So excited to be here.
Oh, no, I love this topic we're about to do. It's because it happens so frequently, and I just feel like it's almost like it's everywhere. And it comes up, I'd say more than 90% of the time. We have something like this come up, either in session, from a parent, from a conversation, whatever it may be, even in our own personal lives.
Yeah.
It's just a very frequent deal. And so the topic that we want to go over with you guys today is called True Lies. This is when kids get conflicting messages. What a great topic.
Mm-hmm.
I just like the way true lies, when kids get conflicting information. And so we have these kids who don't know who to believe, what to believe. So what a great topic we're about to jump into. Please subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcast and other places. I don't even know all the podcast forums, but I know they're all out there. We're out there. Yeah. So Jinohn's right. Just all of them. Just you'll find us. Just Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change, Brighter Possibilities. You can find us. Okay. So let's get right into this.
All right.
Are you ready to do this? Okay. I'm ready to do this. Let's do it. All right. So into True Lies, when kids get conflicting messages. And I think maybe we should start with what that looks like.
Well, I mean, really kind of what it is that kids will come in, and I've experienced this over the past 6 or 7 years that I've been doing, court work and all that, is kids will be like, well, parent A said this, but parent E says this, and I'm confused. Usually my 6 and 7-year-old, I'm confused is what it is.
That's
my
what the
older kid, my older kids are like, this parent's lying.
That's such a true point.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've made their decision.
Yeah.
This one's lying. But the younger ones are like, I'm confused.
They're confused because they don't know who to believe.
Ah, it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's rough. So what is a true lie? Like how would we define a true lie?
I think a true lie would be there is truth and there's a lie in it. I mean, I don't know. Like that's about probably as simply as I can put.
Right. It's almost like it's like even if you are being told a lie, there's a layer of truth, and even if you're being told the truth, there's a layer of potential lie in the message.
Yeah.
So where would parents typically tell a true lie?
I think that a lot of times, just from what I have experienced,
right,
over the past few years, is big one's child support.
Child support.
PSA,
I have one on that. Yeah.
Parents, don't ever talk to your kids about child support.
Thank you.
PSA. It's a free PSA for everybody.
Well, what's funny, Jinohn, is I really, I'll be honest, I pissed a parent off once. And it wasn't intentional. It was really because I was confused. So I was probably the confused kid, right, in the session in this case. But I had a parent come in and say, the reason they're doing all this is because they don't want to pay child support.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. I said, I played with that. Maybe that's true. And I said, well, the other parent told me that the only reason you're responding in the way you're responding is because you don't want to stop collecting it.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
And they literally looked at me like, well, that's not true. And I said, well, they're telling me that you're not true. So I guess I'm a little confused on what's going on here. Because he's saying, right, you don't want to stop collecting. You're saying they don't want to pay it. So which is it?
Yeah.
And so here's the question. Could both be true?
I think both can be true.
Can both be a lie?
And both can be 100. Like I always say that I think you say it too. There could be narratives are 100% truth and 100, or you can be 100% wrong in narratives. You could be 100% right.
Absolutely. This is why I've learned, like, my dad being in his field of work, when they interview people, they interview all parties.
Yeah.
So they're interviewing victims, they're interviewing the potential, what do you call it?
The suspect?
The suspect,
The
yeah.
lynch-
So you have a suspect, right? You don't
Yeah.
have the actual person committing the crime, the criminal.
Yeah.
But in this case, the suspect, you have going back over it. You have the suspect, you have the victim, you have eyewitnesses.
Yes.
And they interview all those individuals to get to a place of going, what do we find to be most true, I guess.
Most true, I guess.
In that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the interesting piece with what we consider a true lie. So child support's one. Is there others?
A big one is, another big one I will say, is just things told to a kid by, or like let's say parent B is like, parent A said this and this in court, or stuff
They're telling
like
the kid what the parent said in court.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times what happens is that kid will go to parent A and they'll say, parent B told me that you said this and this, and then parent will be like, no, I didn't say that. This is what happened, And so then what are we doing? We're getting two different narratives. And the kid's like, well, what really happened?
Well, what's interesting is, and I'll actually use the term I'll change it. A parent had testified to something they said to the other parent, and they were asked, do you still feel this way? And what it was is they basically called the parent a name.
Okay.
So, but what they were really trying to allude to is the behavior of the parent. So when if the parent went to the kid and said anything to the kid, then the parent would have said, your parent called me this, but the parent may have been alluding to the behavior, right? So if I say something like, you're lazy, right? I'm alluding to the behavior of laziness, but I'm calling you lazy.
Right.
So they don't go to the other kid and go, your parent thinks I'm lazy, right? They said they called me
a lazy person.
Whatever, lazy person, whatever it might be. And so then the kid goes, well, I don't like that they did. So they go to the parent, why did you call my other parent lazy? Or why did you, and then the parent feels the need to defend. I didn't call them lazy. Their behavior is. And so the kid's like, so and that's that kind of that true lie thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of fits in. So we have things said to the parents, parental issues. I see one here you listed as custody. So what does that sound like?
Yeah. So a lot of times what I would hear is if there is a custody schedule that is not favorable, I'll say, to one parent, and a little bit quote unquote more favorable to another. I.e.
Right.
like primary, you are in the state of Texas, we have standard, which is Thursday to Monday usually, or that's extended standard. And so one parent will say, well, your parent's trying to take you away from me.
Yep.
And I don't get enough time, and you want more time, don't you? Or something like that. And so then the kid will go to the other parent and they'll be like, why can't I have more time? You're just taking more time. You're not allowing me to have more time. You're trying to keep me from the other parent. So that's what I'm talking about, like custody stuff in court. It's more so, there's so much more to it.
Oh, yeah.
And if we're talking to a 9-year-old, we're talking to a 7-year-old about that stuff, they're not going to be able to understand the nuances. I
had a parent ask me once, like, what do we do, like, when the schedule changes, right? Not custody is more like who gets to make decisions.
Yeah.
I don't know how much dialogue really needs to happen there, because one of y'all is typically making decisions anyway, or you're both making decisions as JMCs, if that's the case.
Right.
So I don't know if that's necessary to discuss as much as if their schedule changes. Like if they're going to see dad more or less, or mom more or less, that might be a need to tell them.
Yeah.
It's when the kid starts asking questions, like, why did it change?
Why?
That's where the true lie begins, I think.
Yes.
And so what I'm wondering is, when a parent had asked me this, I said, it's always better if you do it together. Say, hey, we had a change in the schedule. You're going to be seeing dad so often or mom so often, whatever it is. And just want to make sure you knew that. And the kid goes, why did it change? Now they're both there to respond. But the problem is they don't typically respond on what they believe the truth really is, right? Then one parent might feel something in them that says, well, it's because they're keeping you from me. That's why I'm seeing you less.
Yeah.
That's not appropriate, but it's to say this is the decision that was made.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And what's interesting, when you were saying that, something that popped to my mind. So, a few things popped to my mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Number one, a lot of times parents are like, I don't want to be in the same room with the other parent, so this is not going to happen, right?
100%.
But I was thinking, if both parents were in the same room, a lot of times they start kind of parsing their words. And so they maybe wouldn't be as flippant with their remarks, with saying, oh, well, this is happening because that parent over there wants to take you away from me. Most of the time they would be a little bit more careful with what they say because they're in front of the other parent and they're in front of their child. And usually what I've noticed is that when a parent is by themselves with their child, they tend to forget that the other parent is actually their parent.
Wow.
And so then they kind of say whatever, right? But,
it's such more fluid, yes.
Yeah, but if they're in the same room as the other parent, I think that's kind of like a physical reminder that this person is my child's other parent and they probably do love them. And so I'm not going to say all the terrible, mean things that I want to.
Exactly.
And so, like you said, that probably is the best way to do it because you're going to be very careful about how you present it.
Well, and if you think the other parent's kind of out to get you, you're kind of careful what you say anyway.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but they are.
It's true.
And maybe the real true thing is, regardless, you should just be careful because it's your child. Because you don't want to hurt your kid.
Yeah.
Right? And if you really don't know why things changed, then say, I don't know.
That's an answer.
I mean, I don't have all the answers either.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing this podcast together because I don't have all the answers.
Right.
Like, I'm giving what I have to them, to the listeners.
Yeah.
But I don't have everything. I have what I've learned, what I've discerned, what I've experienced, and I want to share it.
Yes.
But I don't have it all. And this is why we're talking together on this topic specifically as a result of that.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Maybe we're kind of jumping in that a little bit.
Yeah.
What are some other ways we do that in session? So what we would do is we would collaborate all the parties together. We'd say, we're going to bring mom and dad in. There's been a change. You have questions. Let's talk to both your parents and find out how this happened. And we just do it together collaboratively. But what are some other things that we do as counselors when this happens?
Yeah. So a lot of times, and not just about custody, but just in general, when kids are conflicted, a lot of times they'll just come to me personally, and I won't have both parents there.
Right.
And so kind of like what you and I talked about at the last podcast that you and I did, I'm kind of going to reference the book.
Yeah, go ahead. It's a great one.
I honestly can't remember what it's called anymore. I think I said it last week.
The true story of
the true story of the Three Little Pigs.
Yep.
And the thing is, what I do is I'll ask the kids, do you know the story of the Three Little Pigs? And I'll have them tell me.
Yes.
Kind of what that story is. If they don't know, then I'll probably find a little short thing on YouTube so they can listen to it and watch something. And then I'll say, but I said, I think that there might be another side to this. I don't know. And so then I'll bring out the book and I'll read it, or they'll read it to me or something like that. And we'll talk about it and we'll kind of parallel each separate part. It's just like, that looked to be true, but this might be true too, wouldn't it? And even like at the end where, he even says like the media spun it to make him out to be the bad guy, so it's just like, so then I kind of have this conversation with them and I say, both stories can be true, can't they? And I was like, that both your parents can be telling the truth. And what I want to do is I want to lift the burden.
Yes.
Of them trying to have to figure out who's telling the truth.
Right.
And so I tell them, I was like, guess what? You don't even have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because they're both probably telling the truth. But it's their own truth.
What I've learned in storytelling is when you're telling me how you feel, right, about a situation, there's a likelihood that there's mistruth there. When you're telling me what happened, it's less likely for you. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So in the Three Little Pigs story, he blows the houses down.
Mm-hmm.
In the wolf story, the houses got blown down, but for a very different reason.
Yeah.
So the only truth that really is there is the house got blown down.
The house got blown down. Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But kind of everything beyond that is how the story of the narrative is told.
Mm-hmm. How the narrative's.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes, when kids understand that, it's so helpful. Because I've had so many kids come in and say, I don't know who to believe. And I'll say, let me ask it this way. If your parent's talking about themselves, believe them. If they're talking about the other parent, it's half right, half wrong. Because they're talking about someone else. Do they really know what that person's feeling or thinking during that time? No. They know how they felt during that time, right? So if they're talking about themselves, I felt it was a burden. I felt hurt. That's true to them.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it was true. It's true to them. But when they say your other parent is or your other parent's blah, 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 that might not be true.
Right.
Because I'm labeling someone I'm not, right? And so one of the ways I've related this with kids is I said, this is fun. I said, if you got into a fight with another kid at school,
Mm-hmm.
and they go, yeah. And I said, and the principal pulls in the other kid first, talks to them,
Yeah.
sends them out, then pulls you in and says, you're suspended. Doesn't ask you what happened, just says you're suspended. All they've done is talk to the other kid. What do you think?
Yeah, they'd say like it's unfair, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what kids will do a lot of times is they'll hear one version of it, assume it's true, right? And I know you used examples of asking the other parent. I've seen kids go tell the other parent.
Yeah.
They'll tell it to them like they are, like it's anything you say is already a done deal. And so what I tell parents is, and this is something for you parents, when your child's asking a question, don't be mad, even if the question is completely bogus.
Yeah.
Because the question, in my opinion, means that they're uncertain. That's why it's a question. If they were certain, it would be a statement. It's when the child makes a statement, right, in a true lie. When a child makes a statement, they're telling you that they believe that to be true too.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I've learned with kids. So I love to hear how they say it. So they say, my dad did X or my mom did X. They believe that to be wholeheartedly true, even if it's not true.
Yeah.
But when they say, why did my dad do X? Now they're saying as if it happened, but they're saying why, which means I'm not quite sure. I don't quite understand. That's a dialogue now. Don't get mad at that, right? Let it become a question. That's helpful. Sorry, I just got off on a tangent. I apologize. But that's something I do in session as well. What are some other things you've done in session that have helped kids with true lies?
Another thing that I've done is kind of like what you talked about, having parent sessions, and just talking to the parents by themselves and just being like, hey, your kiddo seems a little confused about certain things, and then kind of helping them be able to have either conversations with each other,
right?
Like when something comes up, how about you just talk with the other parent about it rather than having a full dialogue with a 8-year-old. And I say like 8 and 9 because I most of the time I'll see kids under 12, and
that's
so
right.
That's kind of like my wheelhouse. So that's what I see, and and so like when I'm like, well, we don't really have like a full, kumbaya, come to Jesus. I need to tell you all my background and all that, everything with my 6-year-olds because I don't need to know any of that stuff. And so I tell parents, I said, you got to get them out of it.
Right.
And so I'll have a pretty poignant conversations with parents. Sometimes if kids are a little bit older, or they I would say a little bit, they can articulate or they can kind of share what they are confused about. I'll bring the parents in. I'll have the kids tell them, like, this is what I'm hearing from mom. This is what I'm hearing from dad. I'm really confused.
Let the kid do that to the parents.
Yes.
And you pull them in together. That's so smart. Does that work really well?
It does, because parents all of a sudden will realize, oh, we're actually hurting our child. Giving them all this information or saying this thing.
Nice.
Because sometimes I think, either parents have an agenda or they're just kind of venting or something like that. So they may not realize. And I always give parents grace. You may not realize what you're doing, but once it kind of comes to their attention from their child's mouth, they kind of like, it probably just kind of like, oh, I've been doing this and I've been, and I'll have kids say like, how does it impact you?
Right.
Like, I'm thinking about it all day at school. I'm, doing all this stuff because they don't realize, that some of this stuff does linger with the kids.
Oh, I think it lingers all the time. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. And I know you asked me to draw them something. I'm going to do that here in just a second. But going back to something you were saying about, pulling the kids in and everything else, can I ask a hard question for parents? When a parent has a kid who's being overshared with, so this other parent, so let's say parent A is way oversharing, telling the opinions, agendas, court matters, just like spewing on the kid. Parent B comes to you and says, the kid's mad at me because I won't talk to them about all this stuff because I legally can't. Number one. Number two, the other parent's way overdoing it and I don't know how to respond to my child. What do you do in that situation?
That's such a hard question.
I did it on purpose for the parents because I know they're going to ask that.
Yeah. And I've had parents ask that. And sometimes what I will tell them is, most of the time what parents will say, I'll just kind of give the answer that parents give their kids is, that's an adult conversation, and stuff
Set a
like
boundary.
that. And
Mhm.
we're not going to talk about that. And so a lot of times kids are just like, well, I just got to believe the stuff that's given to me, right?
Right.
So what I try to help parents do is I tell them to tell that, well, let me back up.
Now back up.
So the best thing I think for maybe a parent to do is even say, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, acknowledging it.
Thank you for sharing that with me. And then say, I'll take care of that with the other parent.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I've done that
what
before.
happens is that you're kind of circumventing all of it.
Uh-huh.
And then you just kind of take care of it with the other parent.
Yeah. Another parent may not want to hear you or may not care what you got to say, but you just took it away from the kid and said, that's actually ours, not yours. But thank you for bringing that.
Right. Thank you for letting me know.
That's a good one.
I'll take care of it myself,
That's one good way.
And the thing is, and I'm going to revert to my Piaget concrete. Kids are like, okay, it's fixed. I don't have to figure this out anymore. And so then there it is. It's just like, I've taken this from you. I'm going to go take care of it.
Boom.
Done and
Got
done.
it.
You don't have to try to figure it out. Who's telling the truth, who's not. We're going to just nip it in the bud right here. My parents are going to take care of that for me.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one way.
Yeah, that's one way. Mm-hmm.
Are there any other ways you can think of, or?
Well, I'm going to toss it back to you.
I knew you would do that. That's
Definitely going to do
I know Jinohn, being a therapist, is going to kick it right over and go, here, you give us one. It comes up more frequently than I like when that happens.
Yeah.
And parents ask, like, what do I do when my kid has all this information they're not supposed to have, and they're oversharing, and they're not willing to talk in return to the kid, and like, I'm trying to do it right, but how do I do this? What I say to the kiddo or to the parent is, one of the ways I probably personally handle that, and I'm just speaking as myself, is I would do exactly what you said first, always acknowledge.
Yeah.
And I would say, I'm so glad that you were willing to come to me with this so that I can understand what's going on for you. And I would probably make it more about the kid. Say, are you confused about something, or did you already make up your mind? Like, where are you with this? Like, I want to know how my kid's doing. And the reason you do that is because if your kid seems confused, you go, it sounds like we need to get this cleared up, right? And then y'all can devise a plan.
Right.
Or if the kid's not confused, they're coming at you like as a target. I like looking at the kid and going, it seems like you've already made your mind up. Are you asking me, or are you telling me how it is? Because I want to get them into a state of wanting to have a conversation, right?
Right.
Because they may have been overshared with. And so that's another way I've done it. What I've learned to do, what parents do, and I love what this one parent did, they said, if it's about me, feel free to come to me about anything. If it's about me. One thing I won't do is make anything about your other parent. So I'm going to speak as a father.
Right.
So as a dad, I would say something like, hey, I'm so glad you came to me with this. And since it's about me, I'm going to answer it because it's about me.
Mm-hmm.
What I won't do is if I have something about your mom, because I'm a dad, right?
Yeah.
If I have something about your mom, I just don't think it's appropriate for me to talk to you about it. If I have an issue with your mom, I'll take it up with your mom myself.
Yeah.
Right. So you're setting that boundary with the kiddo, but you're not saying I'm going to avoid your stuff with me.
Right.
If it's about you, answer it. It's about you anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not talking about the other parent. You're not saying, how dare the other parent share that with. Don't do that. You're making it about the other parent.
Yeah.
Make it about your kid. Hey, okay, they told you. I'll give you one good one. Parent tells the other parent, your other parent was a closet alcoholic.
Okay.
So the kid may have never seen it, but I divorced your other parent because they were a closet alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so the parent then goes, now they know. So what do? I said, acknowledge. I did have a drinking problem because this is about me. I'm going to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a drinking problem. Now, if your other parents told you that's why they divorced me, it sounds like they may still be hurt about this. I might need to talk to them about it. However, how are you doing? Are you okay? Make it about your kid.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing because the kid doesn't see you avoid them. It sees you put the energy back on them. It also helps you take responsibility for you because you know what? I'll tell you, a lot of parents don't know this. I'm going to give a little tidbit to them.
Yeah.
When you apologize to your children for your part of the problem, the kid will forgive and relax. So many parents defend themselves in divorce.
Yes.
And if they would just apologize, if they would just say, I'm sorry, I messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I did that wrong.
Yeah.
They don't have no idea how powerful it is. It is literally biblical, as Dr. Robinson likes to talk about the Bible all the time. And I love it. I don't mind it at all because I do the same. It is biblical. He who humbles himself is exalted, and he who exalts himself is humbled.
Yeah.
Use humility, right? Own it. So what do you do with a true lie? Own your part of it. What could the big bad wolf do? Because he said, I didn't blow the house down, I sneezed it down, right? And but the fact is the house fell down. So all the big bad wolf says, you know what? You're right. The house fell down. That is on me. I should have turned my head when I sneezed, right? It's own your part of it.
Own your part of it.
The fact is it still happened, okay? I don't know. I'm sorry. I was on another soapbox there, but I think that's great. Is there anything else that I missed here, Jinohn, on what you do in session when a true lie comes up? I love how you pull everyone together and let the kid tell them. I think that's awesome.
I think, and I kind of want to piggyback on, when parents apologize, because that breaks down barriers. Like if kids have like a defense or something like that, then they're going to, like you said, it relaxes them. They're just like, oh, I don't have to be defensive because my parent's going to take responsibility.
Yeah.
What in the world?
Just own the part that's yours.
Yeah.
Own your part. I love it. Maybe we should wear shirts that say that. Own your part.
Own your part.
Can you imagine us walking around with a bunch of shirts on that with all these divorce clients with like, own your part? Just like, what does that shirt mean?
We would solve so many problems.
Just own your part. You have to own all of it. Own your part.
Just your part. That's it.
That's right. So what can parents do?
I mean, we kind of did have to.
We've talked a little bit about that, right? Right.
One of them is talk to the other parent.
Yes.
And like you said, even in your last, statement, just being able to, put the energy back on the kiddo. Just being like, how are you doing? What is this doing to you?
Yes.
How is this affecting you? And then that's how you kind of devise your plan on what to do next.
Right. Should parents defend themselves?
Well, I was going to ask you that question, Michael.
Of course, it's my question.
That's your question.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say yes to an extent. I'm going to say don't start there.
Okay.
Don't start with defense.
Yeah.
Start with the opposite. Go humble. Start with your part. Own the part that's yours. Step one. Step two is say, however, there's a part of this that isn't mine, but I feel like it's being made to be mine.
Yeah.
I think it's saying something like that. I can see a kid, especially a teen, so there's a part of this that's not quite mine, but it seems like it's being made to be mine.
Yes.
Right. And I don't agree with that. But the part that is mine is this, and I need to apologize to you for that.
Yeah. And I've seen it work in my sessions.
Me too.
With teenagers especially.
And so it's a two-step deal.
Yeah.
Step one, own your part.
First.
Second, defend, but not with, I can't believe they would, I never did. It seems like there's a part of this that's being made to be mine that I don't agree with is mine.
Yeah.
But the part that I do agree with that is mine, I need to make sure that you understand that. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
I think kids would see that and be like, wow, because I guarantee you what's not happening is the other parent's not apologizing for anything. Most likely the other parent isn't. They're just blaming the other one.
Yeah.
So don't even take it. Just do what you wish your kid would do. I wish my kid could be humble. Then be humble. I wish my other parent could accept responsibility. Then you should accept responsibility. Why don't you become the version of the parent that the other parent should be? I'm sorry, I just thought about that. What if parents became the version of the parent the other parent should be? What would happen? I'm going to ask you that.
Well, and I mean, if they did that, there probably wouldn't be this, you know what? The thing is, kids they would base their beliefs or what they're going to believe, I guess, based off of their experience then.
Well, and so you brought up the thing that I do. Yes, let's talk about that. When you ask a kid, have you ever asked a kid, do they believe more what they're told or more what they experience? Have you ever asked that question before?
In a different way, but yeah.
How do you ask it?
I usually ask kids, I usually don't ask either or. I'll say, well, what is your experience with that parent? Or I'll say, what means more to you, experience or what you're being told or something like that, you know?
And they answer it?
Yeah.
What do they tell?
Older ones will.
The older ones?
They'll say their experience.
So it's the same answer I get.
If they say what they're told, then I'll kind of give it a scenario. And I'm like, okay, well, if I told somebody about you, I say, should they believe? Should they believe that?
Well, I've never had anyone say what they're told. I've always had them say what you experience. But now I'm curious because I'm sure I'll get that now. Someone will come in and say what I'm told. And I already know exactly how to respond to it because I'm thinking, I know for a fact that it will happen. what I think is kids that are extremely trusting, especially of a certain person, will believe what they're told.
Yeah.
And that's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
But so let me show the cycle.
Okay.
This will help. I used to draw this out for people that it starts with a belief, and then you have a perception, you have reality, in that order. So how does truth develop in someone?
Yeah.
The way someone hears truth, it starts with what they believe, what they then perceive, the two of those matching, called synonymous. I don't know what the word is. And then it becomes their reality, right? So it's the same. Belief and perception match. They call that a reality. So this is what's funny. Here's a true lie. If you put a person in a field and one of them believes in God and one of them does not believe in God, so there's two people. One's an atheist and one's a believer. You put them in a field, they both witness something they cannot explain. It's unexplainable. They come out of the field, you interview them. You go to the believer first and you say, what did you see? They're going to say, a miracle.
Yeah.
The non-believer, the atheist, comes out of that field, witnesses the exact same thing, can't explain it. You ask them, what did you see? Or what did you experience? They say, phenomenon. A phenomenon. Which one's lying? One says miracle, one says phenomenon, same experience. Which one lied?
Yeah, neither of them.
Neither, because it's based on the belief.
Yep.
So what I will tell people, and I drew it, and so if you're on YouTube watching this, you probably can see this. If you're not, basically I have the word belief, I have an arrow that says perception, I have an arrow that says reality. So there's belief, perception, and reality, and that's really what's happening. Everything starts with the belief, and then it goes into perception. It's not what you perceive first, it's what you believe first. If you have certain beliefs about your ex, right, that is influencing the things that you are seeing. So this is what we get kids to do too. Have you noticed the true lie? Is the parent will actually make changes. The kid will say they're fake.
Yeah.
Or we get that's the Disneyland parent.
Yeah.
Because they can't believe that the change could ever be possible because they have this other belief that they're not that way. So even if they make changes, it's all fake.
Or it's just for court.
And that's why they can't get past themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So then I look and I go, well, man, that almost feels like a slap to my face, because what's the purpose of a counselor if nobody can change?
Right.
If people can't change, then what job do I have?
Mm-hmm.
I have to believe people can change for me to be a therapist.
Yeah.
Right. And so here's what's funny. I tell people, if people can't change, then you must be the same person you were 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, but I'm not. I know you're not.
Well, you know you're not, because people can change.
Because people will change. People do change.
Mm-hmm.
It's about who they become and who they want to become. Now, you may believe that they don't want to change into that person, but that doesn't mean they can't.
That's right.
So I love it. So that's my big thing with true lies is when you think you have a true lie, go back to the belief. Don't go back to the statement. Go back to the belief behind the statement.
Right.
Yeah. What's the belief there? Right. Because that's where the struggle is for them to move.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's rooted in the belief, not in the perception.
Yeah. And that'd be a good thing to do with teenagers, because they can do like the critical thinking and all that stuff and kind of go back there.
That's great.
To be able to do that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's really good.
Well, I hope we didn't overwhelm the listeners on this one, because I mean, people are probably having to take notes on this deal. I might have to re-listen to this one myself.
Do it.
I might have to. All right. So I hope that was helpful to everyone. Please feel free to follow us. We would love, actually, let me say feel free. Please don't miss out on following us on Instagram at Brighter Possibilities FC and on Facebook at Brighter Possibilities Family Counseling. We love hearing from you. We've had some feedback, some great feedback. And like I said, if it's great feedback, man, leave it out there for the world so more people can have it. If it's not good, if we can do something better, or you have insight for us that we can change, man, just tell us yourself. Let us know. Didn't we start? I think we're starting some kind of box here where people can have some questions, and we're gonna answer some of those on some live podcasts. Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah. That's gonna be really good.
Yeah. So
I'd love to hear from you.
We really want to make sure we're dipping into what's really happening in your world. We're just talking about it from the perspective of what we see and what comes in our door. However, there may be things we've missed, and I know we've missed, and we want to make sure we don't miss it. So let us know where we can help. We love it. We love you guys. Thanks for being a part of this with us, and keep moving forward.